since we're back now. So, Babacus, if you want to convey that the region has maybe some economic problems, or to hint that there's corruption, you can put in something like bandits. It's good and generic. Bandits, yeah, they always kind of exist, but maybe these bandits seem especially desperate. Maybe they don't seem so much like bandits as they do just hungry people. And so now you're adding storytelling elements to your random encounters, so it's not just treated like, it's just bad guys and we'll kill them and continue moving on down the road. What if these are people who are starving and are willing to, give whatever life is left in this mad dash to try and get any food or coin off of the people? Well, that acts as foreshadowing. Well, that means that the people of these lands, there's something very wrong. There's disease, or there's a tyrant lording over everyone, taking up their coin, or there's other ways to influence the behavior of the people. And so now, yeah, these raiders, these bandits had to be put down or driven off or something, because not everything has to be lethal. But you've been able to tell a short story and are foreshadowing or providing clues that might not come up directly in the story. I would think about the ecosystem. If particular types of animals are present and, attacking in a predatory fashion, that speaks to the overall ecology of the place. Maybe you have a player, we use a bird-watching wizard as an example. So if you have a particular, like a savage ostrich or something similar, swoop down and attack them, your wizard won't like being attacked, but that'll kind of make his day because he can fill that in on his collection. So it's not just about the combat. You're spicing it up. You're making it more real. So hopefully that's some advice to go along with what you're trying to do, Bobicus. I did want to try and tailor that because you had brought it up a little earlier. What else here? You like? Hi Caboose MJ. You say I like to have some pre-made so I don't slow down the game to. Yep. I would suggest that as well as a DM. If you do want to run random encounters, have a chart ready to go, and don't be afraid of having that chart just have a chunk where nothing happens. Not unless you want to force an encounter of some kind, and then you don't know what you want to run, but you want to run something. Do that. Otherwise, quiet nights happen. Not everyone is attacked every day. Bobicus says I can pretend to roll for it and pretend. Yeah, you can do that. That is DM privilege. And that's a fun little trick too, is to sometimes you just roll a die and you watch your players react because they don't know what's going on, but they suspect that you know something or that there's a trap nearby. So it's a good way sometimes if you need to go, hey, pay attention, without actually doing that. You just kind of casually, roll it out there. Valiant, yes, not every encounter has to be a combat encounter either. That's true. You can set a trap, even out in the wild. That could be, a bear trap. Someone gets their leg caught in. It could be, someone set a little vine trap, right? And, someone steps in it and, woo, they go upside down and they're dangling from a tree and have to get down. It could be just a hazard. The bridge has washed out. Oh, no. That's your random encounter. How are you going to get across the river? Bubonic One says, speaking of maps, I seriously am thinking on picking up CC3. I should know what that means. It sounds familiar. Can you tell me specifically what that is? I know some people use programs to make maps. In fact, I think even some people will go into Civilization and make something. Bobika says, but given what I rolled, how to run those random encounters well, I was thinking that Pteranodons could harass the party and stay out of attack range. That's, yeah, I mean, now we're getting into, I don't mind talking about it, but we're getting into how are we micromanaging something that has a random chance of occurring under various circumstances. It's really going to be a test of you as the DM. As Bob Ross would say, this is your bravery test. This is you. You have this nice mountain range to go and just take a paintbrush of brown paint and go, there's a trunk. Now a tree lives here, and we're going to make it fit into the world. So you're going to have to jump in and do this. And, you know, if they're flying monsters, you got to plan for a 3D combat. Avelian says, for example, Bobicus, just because the players encounter read stumble upon 2d6 pteranodons doesn't mean they have to fight them. Yeah, they could just be flying overhead because it's just an encounter. You could just be foreshadowing. Very good advice, Ivalon. Or hunting for food. Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes, too, if it's a pack animal, if the leader's taken out, or you say something like, 5 are attacking, but as soon as 2 go down, the rest are going to break and flee. You can set those hidden parameters because your party's probably going to focus fire anyway. Maybe. I don't know. Every party's a little different with their strategy. And that way you're providing this big overarching threat and you're getting everyone to go, oh my gosh. Though they only have to kill or somehow defeat or trap 2 of them and the others are going to break off. Caboose shares a story. Quicksand once stopped my players for an entire session as they tried to figure out what to do. Yeah. Oh, campaign cartographer. Okay. Yeah, I had heard of that, and I even thought about there's a RPG Maker that you could get through Steam, and you can do some stuff in there too. But I have heard of campaign cartographer. In fact, I should look into that because maybe if I acquire that, I could do a stream. Pardon me. I could do a stream on that and show some guidelines. I know I went into MS Paint and I made that very beautiful map with you all, last week, and I really enjoyed that. And I look forward to doing it again. Though there's other tools too that maybe we can do a little series on, and I can show you how they work, such as Roll20. Okay, cool. So we're caught up in chat. I will still continue reading and responding as I can, though we're going to move fully into part 2 of the broadcast session, where we're going to be talking about ways to add flair or just a thematic sense to a character. Caboose says, with the hidden rules, i.e. kill 2 animals and the rest run, could be something that a ranger does with a well, is it a nature check or a nurture check? That's just sociology humor. But yeah, that's true as well. Monster knowledge is something that can come up and and be an interactive part, in itself a little skill challenge with your characters. Okay, so here's the character we're going to be working with. This was behind the scenes. Just as I'm working on this Wizard Barbarian for Ron, I was working with Delcorin, who had contacted me, sent me a whisper, just like any of you can do on Twitch. If you have questions, you want some advice, just shoot me a message there. Until I get something set up, maybe through a Discord or some way so that we can share these files and communicate. You can send me a whisper and I'll respond back to you. Well, Delcorin was scratching his head because he's in a game and he's running a wizard. This is really his first time, playing, because if you remember, he's a fellow lurker and commentator. He ended up getting a book through me, and I gave him some sheets and some other things, and he felt inspired to play. So he's in a game now, and he just feels a little stuck. His DM doesn't, from what I'm gathering, maybe isn't as responsive as he was hoping, or maybe is just trusting him to fill in details, but he's an inexperienced player. And so I sat down, I asked him a couple basic questions about his character. Are there things that you want to have? And then I will take this concept and I made it, or in a sense remade, because he had most of it already on his end, but I gave my impression of the character and how to go from there. Because at the time we were talking, is he here tonight? Ivalon asks. No, he is not. I think he mentioned he might have work or some late classes or something along those lines. So maybe he'll pop in. We'll see. Yeah. But he knows I'm going to be talking about the character anyway. And you know what? For him not being in here, shame on him. So anyway, I asked him a couple basic questions, and then he went off to do his thing. And I sat down. I had the character generator open, and I was thinking, okay, based on this, how can we build something? We've done random characters to this point, but now we're going to purposely build a character with something in mind, or at least with a couple goalposts or whatever boundaries to mark our sandbox. So I knew that it was a level 3 wizard. I didn't know which school he was going to focus on. I did know the Hermit background, but I didn't know too much else. And male human, and I presumed a good alignment at least. So I started to build. Going around here, okay, it's a hermit, so what would a hermit be pursuing? And this is where we come to your feature as a hermit, which is a discovery. Okay, let's make something up. You've gone away to study. If this person's a wizard, it's probably going to be something magical. And so you're pulling this out as a PC, and you're saying, what am I going to present to my DM in order to help weave this character into the narrative, to provide a lighthouse in the distance at all times for a goal that I'm trying to achieve. So I made something up. If I was the PC, and I'm going to come to you all as the DM, I've discovered a partial answer to an ancient unsolvable riddle. As rumored, solving it will unlock the ultimate spell. That's very wizardly. That seems like something that would compel someone to leave civilization and to go and noodle over something in a cave for years at a time, or wherever. So with the background, I then purposely chose these elements instead of rolling them randomly, because they would help focus and bring together the character and act as reminders to me as the player about who I am and what I'm doing in a more focused session, instead of anything is anything and we're really just storytelling and weaving a character in. So his personality traits, I connect everything that happens to me in a grand cosmic plan. So right, it's like this grand riddle. This is meaning that everything is here for a reason. Maybe not necessarily fatalistic in the sense that everything is fated and you can't do everything, but rather you're just observing the connections of everything around you as you're trying to undo this like Gordian knot of a mystery. And I am working on a grand philosophical theory and love sharing my ideas. My gifts are meant to be shared with all, not for my own benefit. Hey, speaking of Delcorin, still got to work on getting all those nobles aboard. You can do better than this. 94 is an A, but you're an A+ student. So naturally, you as the A student are going to get punished more harshly than the D student, or whatever, the failing student who gets a D and gets a dinner out with the family at a steakhouse and your art pinned up to the fridge. Greetings from my phone, stuck on an ad screen. Well, Del, we are... Oh, thank you for joining along, Caboose. We're working on Gintillian, or at least the concept that I was working off of what we were discussing on the side. So yeah, my concept was the gifts are meant to be shared, and I'm seeking the enlightenment I pursued in my seclusion, and it still eludes me. So that's the bond. The bond is keeping you to this overarching goal. I have to solve this riddle. Now, I, as a player, I don't even know what the riddle truly is. I made it up. As I'm putting it on you, as the DM, to think about this and try and weave this riddle into the story in some way, which offers you a really good and powerful tool, not just over me as a PC, but as a way to spice up whatever campaign that you're running. Yeah, you know what? On a quick side note, while Delcorin's saying this, being stuck on an ad screen, yesterday I was at the doctor's office, and as part of the my physical and everything I was getting, many of you probably get a standard, like a blood draw. It's like a standard panel of things. And I told the lady, well, I'm not the type of person who likes looking at it, so I'm just going to distract myself. And I had my phone open, and I was going to watch a little bit of Twitch while I'm sitting there in the chair. And as a testament to how good she was, or how many levels of vampirism that she has taken as a character, she finished the job almost painless, and she finished before my Twitch ad could load for the channel I was going to watch to distract myself. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, so everything about this wizard, even including the flaw that he would risk all of this to uncover this lost bit of knowledge, shows how focused that this incarnation of Gintillian is. And this helps keep you on track. Where was I going? Oh, because I was reading the comment that you're thinking about playing a little bit of Ranger. So, we did the standard stuff. I went, though, with the variant human, which was instead of +1 to all abilities, it was +1 to 2 abilities, an additional skill, and a feat. So that's been worked into everything here. All of that's accounted for. And you can see on this character sheet, I did something a little bit different. Normally, I was putting the ability score big and the modifier down here small. Depending on your own personal preferences, this was a way for me to showcase an alternative to you all. If you think you're going to use these modifiers more than the score, you can put those in the bigger box if you wanted. Generally, why the modifier is smaller is because the modifier is already added into these other things, such as your attack bonus, your spell bonus, and your skills. So you're more focused on these numbers than having the big one, because there are things that will interact with your scores, and so having your scores be large and more noticeable could be more important. Either way, look, it's your character sheet. Arrange it however you'd like. Delcorin says, but it could be because of the DM I had for my first game and him not explaining much. No, it's because wizards are terrible for newbies, Ivalon says. Not as bad as clerics and druids, but still icky. I've suggested a sorcerer difficult class for me to play. I'm sorry, that was Delcorin saying that. And Bubonic one, lol, looking at Amazon right now. I got $40 for my birthday. It's looking at a set of metal dice from Forge Dice Company. Oh, nice. Yeah, there's a lot of neat things for dice. You could look at Q Workshop. You could look at Crystal Cast, because they make metal dice. I mean, if you really want, you could get dice made out of meteorites and fossils and amber and precious metals and gems. In fact, Delcorin, you had even found and I'd seen those before, but they're rings that you can wear that would have slots on them that spin, and so you could roll a d6 on your finger and just go woo, and then it would stop, and the little counter would be right there in front of you. So plenty of options if you're looking for Dice Bubonic one. Pardon me. Okay, so in thinking about this, I went up here and I said, well, if someone is seeking something and they're willing to endanger themselves or even others in not evil ways, I think Divination would be the proper school to follow, because you're seeking things, you're trying to find answers, you want more spells or to be at an advantage when you're seeking knowledge, and Divination is really, really good for that. Oh, you did order the D20 spinner ring. That's cool. There may be some DMs you're going to want to clear that, because it's the whole, well, instead of rolling publicly in front of everyone and you just go woo, everyone's going to have to take their, your word for it. So otherwise, it's a cool piece of jewelry and it's a fun thing you can show off to friends at a party. But yeah, just it's something to consider. Okay, so while you guys are talking about that, again, filling in all the standard stuff. For the skills, you received religion and medicine as part of being a hermit. From wizard, you received 2 other skills, and this is going to be an int-based character. And again, you think thematically. Here's someone who's trying to take this knot of a riddle and unwind it. You're going to want to pursue different avenues, different ways of approaching. So focusing on the intelligence-based skills would be important. And what we can see here is just that. History, arcana, investigation, because investigation is kind of like detective work. It's putting a crime scene together, making connections between things. This 5th edition can account for a passive investigation where you're just naturally trying to figure things out around you. Religion, because you can take that approach to solving a mystery, or maybe the mystery references a religious event, and so you having knowledge of that will help you untangle this knot. Also, what's playing in here too, by the way, the feat that we got as being a human was training in 2 skills and 1 tool. And so we added in sleight of hand, because wizards tend to be more dexterous, and this was a way also, if you have someone who's doing a lot of writing and drawing, you might be able to use sleight of hand, which is a dexterous ability, to be able to make detailed etchings or to make detailed blueprints or rubbings of things. And it's just a way to enforce manual dexterity and good penmanship. As well, having a higher wisdom, especially for someone who is on a seeking message, is important. So going perception, and what was our other wisdom? Well, there was medicine. If you really wanted to talk to your DM, instead of saying medicine and go insight, that could offer a lot as well. But I was sticking to the book here. I know I was the DM in this case, but this is what we have and why. So, oh yeah, Delcorin, I totally pick a pocket. Hey, you know what? If someone has a clue, you just think that this wizard is kind of like a version of Nicolas Cage's character in National Treasure. Languages, I came down, you get common, and then by being a human, you get another language. Well, as I run D&D, I treat Draconic as the kind of Latin in the world. It is a mother tongue. It's from what many others sprang from. Maybe more of the first races languages like Elven and Dwarven and all that have strong roots in Draconic. They just branch in different directions, while Common kind of then takes all of the branches and winds it back together. And then Primordial, because we're discovering these ancient secrets, and part of that might involve ancient scripture and writing, and we're talking about the elements and things along those lines. So to be able to understand this elemental language could be important to the wizard. Tools, you got an herbalism kit, and I took as from the feat calligrapher's supplies. Fortunately, we didn't have to buy any or purchase any other equipment for that, because the scholar's pack you get as a hermit includes really what you would a calligrapher's supply kit. So you're proficient and you get to start with it. So you're making notes, you're making drawings, you have all these things out, a bunch of Illuminati eyes everywhere. Bubonic One says, shoot, not Q Workshop, that's the Polish dice company. Have you had a bad experience with their dice, Bubonic? No armor weapon, and then of course the weapon training comes from being a wizard, and that's going to play into another decision that we make. So an arcane focus, and the arcane focus, as is going to be shown down below, can be flavored in this sense. Remember, I'm the PC and I'm talking to you as the DM. The arcane focus was the portion of the riddle that I solved that set me on this path, and I envisioned it as a little stone with a hole cut out. It says I'm concentrating on my spell. I could see you all, and I'm casting through this riddle in order to help understand the world around me through what I've discovered. Channeling energies through it, expanding it, becoming more powerful by solving more of the riddle. So that's the focus. Scholar's Pack, Spellbook, okay, and so on and so forth. The equipment up here is the standard, what you would get from your background. Let's see. I also went through and added a little bit more detail. As you can see here, there are easy to read reference notes. This is something I like doing, that if I have a character that has a lot to try and remember, I can immediately know where to go in my Pahubba to access that knowledge if I didn't want to write it all out. Now you can see that we did take the dagger as the starting weapon. However, there's darts and a quarterstaff, and we'll get to that in just a second. So, scrolling down here, we have Gintillian Delcorin, a little bit more fleshed out. There's even a... There we go. Character picture that I thought was fitting. I described the character in my brain first, and then I was doing some image searches that would fit that thereafter. That way there was still a more natural character build, and then we found something conveniently that looked a little bit like what we're hunting. So light green eyes, dark circles under to show I've spent countless sleepless nights. I'm someone who's just sort of obsessed with this. Hopefully not a death note. Skin olive and smooth, long black hair. I was thinking like wavy, like even pulled back. Tall, average, maybe a little slight build for the height, and someone who's spent, depending on your campaign world, 36 could be venerable for human beings. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that our natural lifespans were maybe tickling the 40s. When it was culturally acceptable to have kids at, 13, 14, 15, because that's when you could have kids. And if you think about it, if your average lifespan is having you kick the bucket around 40, 45, that's your midlife. That's your adulthood right there. So here's someone who's, cloistered himself away, is presumably healthy, but he spent a lot of his time in this hermitage, and now is emerging back into the world to rediscover it, to find it. Maybe along this adventure, he'll find romance or friendship or some other things that he was missing, which thematically as a DM is a good way to solve a mystery. A riddle. You can't just do everything yourself, or some things aren't just a study, they're also the experience. Bubonic Chessex is the only kind. So, well, I mean, they're the big players. They're not bad. I can recommend a couple others. There's Koplow, Koplow. There's Polyhero. In fact, they just finished another Kickstarter for a really cool dice set called the Rogue Dice Set. I backed that. I've backed their Wizard dice set as well. There's Q Workshop. There's one. It's like Science Edge or something like that. And they make super precise dice. And Crystal Cast, Caste. They do a lot of standard dice, and then they have the ones made from the cool, like the rarer materials. Oh, okay. So that's just some chat on the side about Delcorin talking about the DM who wasn't bringing up some things. So, you did say the arcane focus annoyed you. I tried to find it in the player's handbook, and it kept sending me to different chapters. It's not really a thing. I mean, there's different types. If you go to the equipment chapter, it describes different kinds. Is one better than the other? And maybe, not really. That's really kind of a fungible area for you and your DM to talk about. So, here we have the character details. Nice picture. Boom. This is how he's walking around. He's got that kind of, that I'm here, and I'm here to figure things out. Has some face writing, has the robe with the kind of the scrawling. And so we made up an organization, Seekers of the Riddle. Seekers of the Riddle is a quasi-organized faction of people who pursue the answer in their daily lives. While not an official college, nor a religious or civil organization, members gather to share notes and discuss leads. It attracts many magical diviners due to the constant pursuit of truth and perception. So here, I as a player just generated content in the DM world. So there's an organization out there, kind of like a Mensa, that is the Seekers of the Riddle. It's putting importance on the riddle, and it's showing that there is a support network out there of some kind. But it's ultimately leaving the organization up to the DM. You're just saying it exists, and I'm a part of it, though maybe like a lot of others, I'm just my own loner who will occasionally come together for the monthly brunch and get together to say, oh yeah, I totally have a lead on this, and then it doesn't go anywhere. I wrote up a backstory as well, a very simple one, because this doesn't get into his family or friends or anything. When I was young, I came across a popular riddle, the unsolvable riddle. Everyone tried to solve it for fun, but nobody made progress. Stories grew up around it that perhaps it was a way to cast some ultimate spell. Over time, it became a quasi-obsession. My life suffered, so I retreated to the wilds to study in peace and not affect others around me as I worked to hopefully cure the woes of the world. I emerged having divined a portion of an answer, still needing more knowledge that solo study can't provide. I carry the partial answer on me as my arcane focus, and fashioned it in a way to help guide me to the other pieces. It is time to re-engage with the very world from which I withdrew in order to, at any cost, help save it. Bada boom. Nice solid story, concept. You're generating content in the world. It's there, it fits, and it just seems natural. Then lastly, we did a little bit of shopping, because your backgrounds, it offers you things, but there's always a little bit more. And even on a budget of 5 gold, which is what we started with, you see that we still have some left over. 1 gold and 3 silver to be specific. Because remember, 10 copper to a silver, 10 silver to a gold. So you have some change clinging around in your pocket. And we come through with this. I put it under treasure. As you adventure, hopefully you get actual treasure and not just items from the store. But this was a good way, because I hadn't done this yet on the stream. Like, I could make one stream about making a really detailed character instead of just kind of randomly generating. So by price group, here are some other things that I thought this Hermit Wizard would carry. And of particular note, I purchased 4 darts, because the darts are something that wizards are proficient at, having an alternative of some way to deal damage, especially because a dagger costs 2 gold pieces itself. You don't just want to fling that around everywhere. Well, here we have a calligraphy student, someone who writes and draws often. And so what I would do as the PC, and you all as the DM, is say, I purchased darts. They are mechanically darts. I want them to work as darts. But I want to theme them as quills. Like writing quills. Like the feather you dip in ink. So this, in this case, I have my quills on me at all times, because I'm noting things, I'm making maps, I'm doing all this other stuff. But if something happens, voo, you cast this feathery quill out, and it acts as a dart, and it's mechanically a dart. It looks like a quill. Or you kind of pull, the Joker's obviously an evil character, but if you know Jack Nicholson's Joker, he used a quill to lethal effect in that movie. So this is a fun way to bring a mechanical concept to bear, something you're good at, something offering you a nice alternative, but it's completely thematic to your character. Oh, hey, Etain. Thank you for making it into the stream. It's interesting to host you and to have you in for commentary for a change. So yeah, he's re-emerging from the world. What are some other things that he'd be given? How is he surviving? So we have these thematic darts that are actually quills. So you have these feathers you're throwing out with pointy ends. You have this robe, right? Because the character had this nice robe. Well, maybe you have a nice robe too, if only to keep the chill off. But just because you have your common clothes that you've been spending a lot of your time in doesn't mean you don't have something a little bit fancier. So when you do go into a town, you're not kind of looking like a ragamuffin. A bedroll, yeah, you are given a winter blanket, and that winter blanket, if you think about it, was acting as your backpack and everything else, as you probably took whatever possessions you had and rolled it up in your blanket and, wrapped an incidental piece of rope around it and just kind of carried that over your shoulder. And then when you set up camp, you just laid everything out. Well, in this case, maybe you still do that, but you have something a little bit more comfortable. Gave you a water skin, 2 oil flasks, that have a pint each, a mess kit, so you can eat not just like a savage. We did add in a quarterstaff. You can use that as a walking staff. You can bonk things with it if it really comes down to it, but you have a negative damage modifier. Or you can use it as, it's not a 10-foot pole, but you can poke things at a distance with it. Pouch, signal whistle. Sometimes, look, I don't know, you have it for a reason. Come up with it. That's a fun challenge too. You could give backstory to it, or you could say, oh, I really liked how it looked on market day. I got it for a good price. A lamp, because as a human, yes, you can cast light, but as a human, you don't have dark vision, and sometimes maybe you don't want magical light. You want something looking a little bit more natural, because people who cast magic draw a lot of attention to themselves, even in a magical world. Chalk is always useful for various reasons, and soap because you've been a hermit. Delcorin, listen to me. You've been a hermit for like 20 years. Take a bath. Wash up. Oh, goodness. So, yeah, fun stuff. Plus, you know what? You could use something like this in a clever fashion because you're a clever character. I don't know, you make a little trap where someone slips on the bar of soap as they come in, or you can use soap kind of like chalk in a different way. So, nope, Delcorin is staunchly refusing to take a bath. Okay. I went through and I made a little bit extra notes than I normally do when we do character creation, just as reminders. Again, this is kind of a bread and butter starting character, so it doesn't hurt to have this stuff be repeated. They're less likely to ask me to do magic tricks for them. Yeah, because the stink keeps people away. So you cast off int, and that's your modifier. We've already filled in your spell save and your spell attack. We know you're a wizard. You're a wizard. Though this is a reminder at how many spells you can prepare. Because you can, as a wizard, you can have 11 billion spells. You can only prepare so many every day. Going by the book, you got 3 cantrips, and you started out with 6 level 1 spells. And I was thinking, alright, here we have this hermit pursuing a secret. We need, some combat for self-defense, but also utility. And so Acid Splash, if you think about it, especially with some kind of rocks like limestone, he could be etching into the rock. It's a permanent way, or a more permanent way, to draw things out. This is perhaps how he made his spell focus, his own spell focus, with this solved portion of the riddle. And so Acid Splash is an offensive spell if combat occurs, though it also has a practical use. Then Light is just that, because you can't see in the dark, and having light around is nice. And Prestidigitation does a lot of fun things, such as producing a little flame, or if you don't want to take a bath, you can just sort of like, wiggle your fingers at your armpit and it'll stop smelling for a little bit. Detect magic, because you're on a magical quest. That seemed natural. Find familiar, which I didn't go into the details because I thought that would be something for you to explore as a character, or even for you to think about as a DM if I'm the PC coming to you. Is what are the aspects of this familiar? What am I gaining? What is the purpose of the familiar? Because you can have a lot of fun with a familiar, and they make excellent accents to a wizard. Identify, again, very scholarly. You're on this knowledge quest. Magic Missile. Now you'll note I said it's prepared twice. You can do that. You could prepare, all your spells as one if you really wanted to. But this is showing that here, it's an average day you wake up. You don't know what to expect. This is your spell suite for any random day traveling around. So you can cast Magic Missile twice. That's why only 5 of the 6 that we can cast are, the radio button is filled in. I'm reaching over here off camera like you can see me pointing. So I really got to do kind of like a, this, or kind of lean back and go boop, boop, boop. Silent Image, because and this is something that to think creatively about silent image, like, oh, I'll create the illusion of a silhouette in a window to try and get people to leave, or there's all these other spells. Think about it this way: if you're someone who draws and plots and plans, having illusion spells on hand is like having Tony Stark from the Iron Man movies having Jarvis be able to make 3D holograms of his plans and thoughts in real time before him. So silent image, if you're solving a riddle, you don't necessarily need it to make heat or light or sound, and especially not stink, because he has his own natural, beautiful smell about him that he's cultivated at this point. I mean, we have to be refined about this. He's cultivated an aura, an Odysseus aura. But you can use silent image to go, whew, okay, let's play with it. Let's look at this riddle from all aspects. You can use a spell in that way too, not just to baffle someone trying to chase you. Sorry, I might have fallen a little bit behind in chat here. I was worried about catching party members in the splash if they're engaged. It's a possibility. You can always do things like... so, if the splash, like, let's say, I forget if it's a cone or not, but if it is a cone... Here, there we go. That's a little bit better. You can... And the enemy is, like, right in between, like, at the center point here are the fingers. We'll just say it's the bridge of my nose, right? So right there, that's where the enemy is. You don't have to fire there because you're still catching the enemy if you angle off to the side. And so if your party members hopefully aren't over here, then you're still getting the enemy and not your party members. Also, depending on how you word it with your DM during combat, if you go right up to your enemy and you just sort of throw it in their face, you're the origination square. Or you could even say, I do a tumble forward and I kind of like Hadouken acid up in their face. You're doing it up and away from your allies who are on either side, standing a couple feet apart, so that the origination of the spell is right on them. Again, think creatively. Propose a plan of action and let your DM, think about it. It's up to them, because what if they give you advantage or disadvantage? Or what if they say, yeah, that's awesome. I never would have thought of that. I want you to succeed, and they're my monsters. So don't be afraid to be innovative and creative like that. Oh, yeah, Valiant. Yeah, no, you bring up a good point. It's based on the it's based on the spell slots. That is I must have had an older edition moment there, so I appreciate you bringing that up. So instead of that, that makes sense, because I had 6, and I'm like, no, let's do something else. It was also Burning Hands, which I thought also he could like wood burn with that is a creative way to express his trying to work things out. But yeah, that's true. Evelyn, thank you for bringing that clarity. I had a bit of a derp as I was trying to get this out in a last half hour, not minute, but thank you. Okay, and I also put down level. It's not necessary, but for a tutorial, this is the level that you reached that spell or that you acquired it. Some DMs may want to babysit your spells and know when you got things what, so they're not like, oh, well, you're putting down whatever you want whenever you want, and you're not expending the gold or doing this other stuff. And other people also will do it alphabetically, or they'll put reference like, page 101. That way, if you don't have a spell card printed out or you didn't write it on an index card, you have your list, but you know exactly where to go to look for it. Mostly, while D&D is in many ways just a back and forth, a two-dimensional combat, 3D&D does exist. And if you have things like cones and cylinders and all that, you can cast up, or you can cast at an angle and have it go up and away, or to go over characters. Or another good one is if all of you are medium sized or small sized, your model is only like one square in the sky, and if you're fighting a large creature and their head is 2 squares up from the ground, you can cast a fireball or a sleet storm, which is a cylinder, cast it with the origination point higher so that the bottom of your spell is here and up on your large creature. So all of the rest of you party members that are medium and small can go around and you're operating completely underneath this zone of sleet, but your larger character is affected all the time by it. 3D. Ooh. Yeah, index cards are great, Evelyn, and I'm glad you like the page idea there, Delcorin. Okay, so yeah, these are spells that I thought would have practical use, even offensively. Shatter, again, you know, if you need to get material out, you can use Shatter, not just to break enemies that are coming at you, especially constructs, but constructs hold secrets and gem cores and all this other stuff. But it's a way for you to live and gather resources and to go from there. Now, as this person adventures on in a campaign, will he get maybe more directly offensive spells, like a fireball or something? Yeah, probably. It would just seem natural, right? The wizard is adapting to his environment and is learning the spells that are available to him as he goes along. But starting out, if Tony Stark is in a cave for a week, he only has the materials that he has on hand and can work with that. And later from there, he can expand out and refine his Iron Man suit. So these were ways in order for you to be able to go a little bit above and beyond a standard character creation. You can thematically, as we did here with the darts, ask your DM to say, can I just have them be quills? Heck, maybe your DM will even let you write with them. But here, you have this battle nerd that is fully armed with knowledge and is ready to defend himself and pursue, these truths and this riddle on this sort of quasi-obsessive quest. In so much you have chalk. Chalk is handy in a lot of ways. You can leave trail marks. If you're in a labyrinth, right, you just sort of like make marks along the wall. Or you, as a wizard pondering over this stuff, wake up in the middle of the night and suddenly your eyes are like, oh my gosh. And then you just need to start writing and writing and writing and writing. You have a handy utensil there as your brain is solving this. Of course, for free, if you have a campfire, you can just use some charcoal too. Again, think creatively. What's around you? So hopefully, this was a good way to help bring not just a random character together and provide a broad story, but to focus a story on a character that is being deliberately made for a campaign being run, not just pulled from the mists of the ether and everything else. And we're making a story. This is the story of this character specifically. We've handpicked everything. We've flavored everything. We've retooled everything in order to pursue this quest, this personal quest of his, in the context of whatever the greater overarching campaign is. The mess kit, oil, sealing wax, prestidigitate, inflame, and boom. Yeah, you might be able to combine some things. Oh, the sealing wax also. You might not have a lot of missives that need to go out, but wax is a bit like a clay. You can play with it, especially with prestidigitation. You can create flame. You can heat up the wax, and then maybe you're drawing in it, and you say, no, this can't be the answer. And so you wave your hand over it with your magic spell, and you reheat the wax, and so it forms into a puddle again. And you say, no, the design was this way. Or you could use the sealing wax to seal your scroll tubes if you're going to go into a watery area or if it's raining a lot. There's a lot of practicality. So I was thinking about ways you could express your ideas to solve this grand riddle in various formats. So there we go. This is a more complete character than what we've done so far, because this is a very purposeful, very specific character, not a random one that we're considering everything around. Now, of course, after this, when I was talking to Delcorin, his character has a different personality and bend than the one I was forging, but maybe kind of like Jet Li and the One, they'll get to meet up in some dimension, and one will conquer the other to find out who the true Gintillian Delcorin is. All right, I'm going to get up, take another stretch and potty break. Take some more water, stay hydrated here. I don't have one of those fancy hydration bots that you're seeing in a lot of channels nowadays, but you all do the same. If you have a pet around, make sure you give them attention. Otherwise, they'll make sure that you are attending to them by jumping in your lap or on your head, or you're getting a cold nose in a place that you don't want it. Yep, I'll be gone, I don't know, whatever, 5 minutes. Get up, do some stretches, some calisthenics, and we will come back and finish up the broadcast with some Q&A. You can bring things up in particular. I can share a story, or you all can share a story, and we'll get the evening concluded with that.